Breakthrough for scientists after they had a 20-minute conversation with a humpback whale.
What if whales are not just making sounds, but actually talking to each other in ways we are only beginning to understand?
Are whales talking to each other?
Definitely.
For decades, the deep ocean has felt like a quiet mystery. But now, with the rise of artificial intelligence, scientists are starting to hear something new.
Researchers at Project SETI are using artificial intelligence to decode the clicks.
Not noise, not random calls, but patterns that feel almost like language. In this video, we explore how AI is helping decode whale communication, what researchers are really finding, and why this discovery is both exciting and still full of unanswered questions. If you enjoy deep science, hidden mysteries, and stories that make you rethink life on Earth, stay with me till the end and consider subscribing. The sound of the ocean. The ocean is anything but silent. Beneath the surface, it is filled with an ongoing symphony of natural sounds, from shifting currents to distant geological movements. Among all these voices, whales stand out as some of the most powerful and consistent contributors. Their calls travel vast distances, creating an invisible network of sound that stretches across entire oceans. For whales, sound is not just noise, it is their primary way of interacting with the world around them. Each whale species has its own unique way of communicating. Humpback whales are famous for their long, melodic songs that can last for hours, almost like evolving musical compositions. In contrast, sperm whales rely on sharp, rhythmic clicking sounds that function more like pulses or signals. These differences suggest that whale communication is not random but highly adapted to their environments and social needs. Over time, scientists began to realize that these sounds were far more complex than they first appeared. For decades, researchers recorded whale sounds, building large archives of underwater audio. They could identify repeating patterns, rhythms, and structures, but understanding the meaning behind those sounds remained out of reach. It was similar to hearing a language without knowing any of its words. That gap between sound and meaning became one of the biggest mysteries in marine science. Only recently, with the rise of advanced technology, has that mystery started to become slightly more accessible. Why whale communication matters. Whales are not just massive creatures drifting through the ocean. They are intelligent, social beings that form strong bonds within their groups. They travel together, protect one another, and show behaviors that hint at memory, learning, and even emotional awareness. Observing these traits naturally leads to one important question. How do they coordinate all of this without a clear understanding of their communication? If scientists can begin to decode whale sounds, it could unlock insights into how these animals organize their societies. Communication may play a role in hunting strategies, navigation, warning signals, or even maintaining relationships within pods. Understanding these patterns could reveal a hidden layer of ocean life that humans have never fully seen before. It would shift whales from being mysterious giants to active participants in a complex social world. There is also a deeper implication that goes beyond marine biology. Humans have long believed that structured language is something unique to our species. If whales are found to use organized systems of communication, it challenges that assumption. It forces us to rethink what language really is and who can possess it. That idea alone has pushed researchers to study whale communication with more focus and urgency than ever before. Enter artificial intelligence. The introduction of artificial intelligence marked a turning point in whale research. Previously, scientists had to manually listen to recordings, analyze waveforms, and try to identify patterns by hand. This process was slow, limited, and often subjective. With AI, that limitation changed almost overnight. Machines could now process massive amounts of data at speeds no human could match. Machine learning models are designed to detect patterns across large data sets. They do not rely on fatigue or intuition. Instead, they systematically scan for repetition, variation, and structure. When applied to whale sounds, these systems began identifying patterns that had been overlooked before. What once seemed like random noise started to reveal consistent sequences and recurring structures. Researchers began feeding years of whale recordings into these AI systems, hoping to uncover something meaningful. The goal was not to immediately translate whale language, but to find signs of organization. And that is exactly what began to appear. The AI was not just picking up random similarities, it was detecting structured patterns that suggested intentional communication. That discovery opened the door to an entirely new way of understanding marine life. The idea of codas. One of the most important discoveries in whale communication comes from studying sperm whales and their use of codas. Codas are short bursts of clicking sounds arranged in specific sequences. At first, they might seem simple, but closer analysis shows that they carry distinct rhythms and patterns. These are not random clicks, they are structured signals that vary depending on context. Different codas can be identified by their timing and repetition. Some are fast and tightly packed, while others are slower and more spaced out. Scientists noticed that certain groups of sperm whales consistently use particular types of codas more than others. This pattern suggested something deeper than basic communication. It hinted at identity, almost like a signature unique to each group. With the help of AI, researchers were able to map these codas in greater detail than ever before. The technology grouped similar patterns and highlighted relationships between different whale families. This made it possible to see connections that were previously invisible. The idea that whales might use codas to identify themselves or communicate group-specific information became one of the most exciting developments in this field. The first message moment. It is important to be clear about what scientists have and have not achieved. No one has fully translated whale communication into human language. There is no direct equivalent of a word like hello or goodbye. However, something significant did happen that changed the direction of this research. AI began identifying patterns that consistently appeared in specific situations. For example, certain sequences of codas were repeatedly detected when whales gathered together or moved as a group. These patterns were not scattered randomly across the data. They appeared in meaningful contexts, suggesting a link between sound and behavior. This was the first strong indication that whale communication might carry specific information tied to real-world actions. This moment is often described as the first message, not because a sentence was translated, but because a pattern was connected to a purpose. It showed that whale sounds are not just background noise. They are structured, intentional, and potentially meaningful. For many scientists, this realization was both exciting and humbling, marking the beginning of a deeper exploration into non-human communication. Patterns that look like language. Human language is built on structure. Words follow rules, and sentences are arranged in ways that allow us to share ideas, emotions, and information with clarity. Grammar, repetition, and predictable patterns make language understandable even when it becomes complex. When researchers began applying similar analytical frameworks, like pattern recognition and sequence modeling to whale sounds, they started noticing something unexpected. Certain sound sequences appeared together more often than randomness would allow, forming clusters that hinted at organization rather than chaos. These recurring combinations suggested that whale vocalizations might not be isolated signals, but parts of a larger system. Just as human speech relies on the relationship between words, whale sounds seem to rely on the relationship between clicks, pulses, or tones. Some sequences were repeated with slight variations, almost as if they were being modified for different contexts. This kind of variation is important because it points toward flexibility rather than rigid instinct. It raises the possibility that whales are not just producing sounds, but selecting and arranging them in meaningful ways. Researchers also observed that certain patterns appeared in specific situations, reinforcing the idea that these sequences might carry context-dependent information. For example, a particular arrangement of sounds might occur more frequently during group movement while another appears during social interactions. These associations are still being studied, but they strengthen the argument that whale communication involves more than random vocal output. Instead, it may reflect a system where structure plays a key role in conveying purpose. Even so, it is important to recognize the limits of these findings. The presence of structure does not automatically mean the presence of language in the human sense. Human language includes layers of meaning, symbolism, and abstraction that may not exist in the same way for whales. Scientists must be careful not to impose human expectations onto animal communication. Doing so could lead to misinterpretation or exaggerated conclusions. What makes this discovery significant is not that whales speak like humans, but that their communication shows signs of organized complexity. Repeating elements, consistent sequences, and possible rules all point toward a system that operates with some level of internal logic. This alone shifts the conversation from viewing whale sounds as simple biological signals to considering them as part of a structured communication framework. Ultimately, the idea of a structured system represents a major turning point in this field. It suggests that whale sounds could carry information in a consistent and interpretable way, even if we do not yet understand it. Decoding that system will take time, careful analysis, and a willingness to question assumptions. But the discovery of these patterns has already given scientists a clearer path forward, one that brings us closer to understanding a form of communication that has existed in the oceans long before humans ever thought to listen. The role of big data. One of the biggest reasons this field has advanced so rapidly in recent years is the availability of data. For decades, whale recordings were limited, scattered, and difficult to analyze in large volumes. Today, scientists have access to thousands of hours of underwater audio collected from different parts of the world. This massive collection has turned whale research into a data-driven science rather than a purely observational one. Handling this volume of information would be impossible without modern tools. Recordings must be cleaned, organized, and labeled before they can be used effectively. Once processed, they are fed into AI systems that can analyze patterns across time, geography, and species. The more data these systems receive, the more accurate and refined their pattern recognition becomes. This is what allows researchers to move beyond guesswork and into measurable insights. In many ways, this process mirrors how AI models learn human language. They study enormous datasets to identify relationships between sounds, words, and meanings. The difference is that whale communication lacks a known reference point, making the challenge even greater. Still, the combination of big data and machine learning has turned the ocean into a place where hidden signals can finally begin to surface. Projects leading the way. Several major scientific efforts are now focused on understanding whale communication at a deeper level. One of the most prominent is Project CETI, which aims to decode sperm whale communication using advanced AI, underwater sensors, and robotics. This project brings together experts from multiple fields, including marine biology, linguistics, and computer science. Another key initiative is Earth Species Project, which is working to analyze communication across a wide range of species, not just whales. Their approach focuses on building machine learning tools that can detect structure and patterns in animal sounds without relying on human assumptions. By comparing different species, they hope to uncover universal principles of communication. What makes these projects unique is their careful and methodical approach. They do not claim to have decoded whale language. Instead, they focus on building the foundation needed for future breakthroughs. By prioritizing accuracy over hype, these teams are ensuring that progress in this field remains credible and scientifically grounded. Are whales trying to say something? This question sits at the heart of the entire research effort. Scientists are beginning to see patterns that suggest whales may be sharing information with one another. Some believe these sounds could communicate location, helping whales stay connected across vast distances. Others think they may signal identity, allowing individuals or groups to recognize each other through sound. There is also the possibility that whale vocalizations reflect emotional states. Changes in rhythm, tone, or repetition might indicate stress, excitement, or social bonding. While this idea is harder to prove, it aligns with observations of whale behavior, which often appears deeply social and coordinated. If true, it would mean that whale communication carries not just information, but feeling. A more speculative idea is that whales could have something resembling storytelling or cultural exchange. This remains unproven, but the existence of structured patterns keeps the possibility open. For now, the evidence is not strong enough to confirm such complex communication. Still, the mystery itself continues to drive curiosity, keeping researchers focused on uncovering what lies beneath these sounds. Limitations and reality check. Despite the excitement surrounding this research, it is important to stay grounded in reality. Scientists are not currently having conversations with whales, nor are they translating full sentences into human language. What AI is doing is identifying patterns, not assigning definitive meanings. This distinction is crucial for maintaining scientific accuracy. There is always a risk of overinterpreting data, especially when patterns appear compelling. Just because a sequence repeats does not necessarily mean it carries complex ideas. Nature often produces patterns that are functional without being symbolic. Researchers must constantly check their assumptions and avoid projecting human-like language structures onto animal behavior. This careful approach is what keeps the research credible. By acknowledging limitations, scientists ensure that each discovery is built on solid evidence rather than speculation. Progress in this field is slow, but it is also steady and reliable. That balance between curiosity and caution is what makes this work both challenging and meaningful. How whales hear the world. For whales, sound is not just a communication tool, it is the foundation of how they experience the world. In the deep ocean, sunlight fades rapidly, leaving vast areas in near total darkness. Vision becomes unreliable, especially at greater depths, where many whale species spend much of their time. In contrast, sound moves through water with remarkable efficiency, traveling faster and farther than it does through air. This makes it the most dependable sense for whales, allowing them to interpret their surroundings, stay connected with others, and respond to changes in their environment. Through sound, whales can achieve something similar to seeing at a distance. Using techniques like echolocation, especially in species such as sperm whales, they emit clicks and listen for echoes bouncing off objects. These returning signals provide detailed information about the size, shape, and distance of prey or obstacles. Even beyond echolocation, low-frequency calls can travel across entire ocean basins, linking individuals separated by miles or even hundreds of miles. This transforms the ocean into a vast acoustic network where whales remain connected despite physical distance. In this sound-driven world, even the smallest variations matter. A slight change in rhythm, pitch, or timing can carry entirely different meanings. What may sound similar to the human ear could represent distinct signals to whales. This sensitivity allows them to convey complex information efficiently, whether coordinating movement, maintaining social bonds, or responding to potential threats. Understanding these subtle differences is one of the biggest challenges scientists face when trying to decode whale communication. The environment itself plays a crucial role in shaping how these sounds are produced and received. Water density, temperature, and pressure all affect how sound waves travel. Lower frequency sounds tend to travel farther, which is why many whales use deep, resonant calls for long-distance communication. Higher frequency sounds, on the other hand, are better suited for detailed, short-range interactions. These physical constraints influence not just how whales communicate, but why they use certain types of sounds in specific situations. Distance also introduces complexity. As sound travels, it can weaken, scatter, or change slightly depending on the surrounding conditions. Whales must account for these variations, adjusting their calls or interpreting signals based on experience. This suggests a level of adaptability and awareness that goes beyond simple instinct. It shows that whale communication is shaped by both biological ability and environmental understanding. Ultimately, whale communication cannot be separated from the ocean itself. It is not just about the animals producing sounds, but about how those sounds move, change, and are perceived within a dynamic underwater environment. To truly understand their language, scientists must study both sides of this equation, the biology of the whales and the physics of the water. Only by combining these perspectives can we begin to grasp the full complexity of how whales experience and communicate within their world. Culture in whale groups. One of the most fascinating discoveries in whale research is the presence of cultural variation. Different groups of whales often use distinct sound patterns, even when they belong to the same species. These differences are not random. They suggest that whales learn communication styles from one another, much like humans learn language within communities. Over time, these patterns can change, indicating that whale communication is not fixed. It evolves. New variations may emerge, while older ones fade away. This dynamic nature points to a system that is influenced by learning and social interaction rather than purely instinct. It adds another layer of complexity to an already intriguing subject. Young whales are believed to learn vocal patterns by listening to older members of their group. This process mirrors how human children acquire language. If this is true, it means that whale communication is passed down through generations, creating traditions within groups. The idea of culture in whales transforms how we view them not just as animals, but as participants in evolving social systems. Can AI talk back? As researchers begin to understand whale communication patterns, a bold question emerges. Could humans respond? If AI can identify structures in whale sounds, it might eventually be able to generate similar patterns. This opens the possibility of creating signals that whales recognize or react to. However, this idea is still highly experimental and controversial. There are serious concerns about interfering with natural behavior. Introducing artificial signals into the ocean could disrupt social structures or confuse the animals. For this reason, most scientists believe that observation should come before interaction. Even so, the concept of two-way communication captures the imagination. It represents a future where humans might not just study animals, but engage with them in a meaningful way. Whether that future becomes reality remains uncertain, but the question itself highlights how far this field has already come. What this means for humans. The study of whale communication is not just about understanding another species. It is also about redefining our own place in the natural world. For a long time, humans have viewed language and complex communication as uniquely human traits. Discovering similar structures in whales challenges that belief. This shift encourages a deeper respect for non-human life. It reminds us that intelligence in communication can take many forms, not all of which are immediately recognizable to us. By expanding our definition of these concepts, we begin to see the natural world in a more connected and less hierarchical way. At the same time, this research highlights the power of AI as a tool for discovery. When used carefully, it can reveal patterns that were previously invisible. It does not replace human curiosity, it enhances it. In this case, it is helping us explore one of the most mysterious and fascinating forms of communication on Earth. The future of whale language research. The future of this field is promising, but it will require patience. Scientists will continue to gather more data, refine their models, and test new ideas. Each step forward will build on the last, gradually improving our understanding of whale communication. Breakthroughs are possible, but they will not happen overnight. Advancements in underwater technology will play a major role in this progress. Better recording devices, longer observation periods, and less intrusive methods will provide clearer data. At the same time, AI systems will continue to improve, becoming more accurate in detecting patterns and relationships within complex datasets. Ultimately, understanding whale communication is a long journey rather than a quick discovery. It is a process of slowly uncovering meaning from sound, one layer at a time. As research continues, we may come closer to answering one of the most profound questions in science. Are we truly alone in our ability to communicate complex ideas, or have we simply not been listening closely enough? AI has not fully decoded whale language, but it has revealed something powerful. These sounds are structured, meaningful, and far from random. We are only at the beginning of understanding what whales might be communicating beneath the surface. Do you think whales have a true language, or are we just seeing patterns where none exist? Comment down below.